Thank you, Love. Thank you very much for the intro. And it's good to be here. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to you guys. I always jump at an opportunity to talk to younger creatives because I believe it was an opportunity I didn't have coming up. I didn't have that opportunity to talk to somebody that had been in the industry for a while, to talk to someone that I felt I respected. I didn't have the opportunity to have a lot of mentors. I had people that I considered mentors, but they were not accessible. And that's something I really envy about the generation of creatives that we've had over the past 6, 7 years, where the internet has made people more accessible. And there are a lot of platforms by which you can learn and be mentored. So it's great to be here. I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad to see number of people here. Some I know, some I don't know, but it's always good to see new faces. So very quickly, I'll try to go into this and see what I can talk about within an hour, because I have an hour to give to this. But I'll try to talk so that I can give people the room to ask questions. Now we're going to be talking about the creative journey, and I'll be using my journey as an example. But it's a journey that is familiar and that will be familiar to a lot of us, the creative journey. And this is something I had the opportunity of talking about just yesterday on a Twitter live I was having. I don't know how many of you were there, but I had a Twitter live session yesterday, and it was the same subject matter on creativity. And a lady asked the question that was pretty interesting to me. She said, "Can creativity be learnt? Can creativity be learnt?" And in answering that question, I told her, not only can creativity be learnt, it should be learnt. Not only can it be learnt, it should be learnt. Creativity is not a an innate thing. It's not an innate thing. It isn't. It's a journey. So nobody is born creative. We have the potential to be creative, but everybody has the potential, but nobody is born creative. Nobody. We learn it as we go. We choose to walk the path of creativity. And because we don't understand that creativity is learned, that's why you see in third world countries like Nigeria, unfortunately, we don't value thought. And that's why when you tell somebody, man, you pay me because I have to think about this thing, they don't understand why they should pay you for thinking. They don't understand. They pay third world countries, developing countries, they put more value on the tangible, not the intangible. So we don't value thought, but we value product. Advanced countries, they prioritize thought and they prioritize product because they realize that thought is what gives value to product. So when you think well, you can create something good. So if you go back in time to any civilization, whether the Egyptian era, the Roman era, the Greek era, you see these people, if you ask the people that they respected the most, they were thinkers. Not the people that were building the pyramids or the people that were building stuff. No, no, no. The people that got together to think. And that's why you see that Greek philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, all these people were highly revered because they were thinkers. They didn't create anything per se. Do you understand? But they put in a value system in people that helped them to create. So you see, creativity should not be taken for granted. Creativity should not be taken for granted. It's a journey that takes time. But a lot of us don't even know this. We that call ourselves creatives, we don't know that it's a journey. So we don't go the full journey. We go half journey. Those that even try go half journey. Some people just go one step. But there are 5 steps in creativity. There are 5 steps you need to take before you can call yourself a creative. And that phrase, call yourself a creative, is even an oxymoron because you shouldn't be the one calling yourself a creative. It's people that call you a creative. people discover creativity in you. So no creative calls himself a creative. It's people that say this person is creative. And I'll tell you why as we go along those steps. Now, the first step to creativity is excitement. If you are going to be creative in any sphere of life, you must be excited about that sphere. So the first step in creativity is excitement. Excitement, you can also call it interest, but I choose to call it excitement. Because sometimes when we think of excitement, we think about it as a spirit of euphoria, jumping up and down, dancing. No. That's not, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about interest. So when I say excitement, I'm talking about interest. So you might say, I'm a quiet person. I don't really show my excitement. I'm not talking about that showing of excitement that makes you act out, because some people have personalities that they don't act out. It's just how they are. No matter how excited they are, they won't jump up and down. Do you understand? So I'm talking about interest. So that's the first stage in being creative. So like I was saying yesterday on the Twitter Live, if you find yourself in a workplace where you're not interested in what they are doing, there's no way you can be creative there. That was one of the questions I was asked yesterday too. He said, what if I'm in a place where I don't really enjoy what I'm doing? How can I make it more creative? I said, first place, you're in a place you don't really enjoy. You can't be creative there. You can't be. Creativity doesn't work in places that you are not excited about. In every sphere of life, even in relationships, you cannot be creative like a guy that writes a poem for a girl. You understand? Seems to write a very romantic poem. Can only write a romantic poem if he's excited about the girl. If there's something that excites him about the girl, you can't force yourself to write a romantic poem about a girl you don't fancy in any way. It's not possible. You cannot write a poem about a girl or a guy that you don't fancy. You must fancy something about the person. It is that thing that you like that motivates you to think of words that you can use to describe how much you like them. Very hard. It's very hard if there's no excitement. There's nothing that will ginger you. Nothing. So excitement is very important. Your interest is very important. And you can be interested in something in three ways that can make you creative, that can put you in a place where you're predisposed to being creative in that thing. And that is, the first way is you can be excited or interested in the process. And when you're interested in the process, that means you like what goes into that activity of that thing that you like. So for me, I'll be honest with you, when I got into graphic design 18 years ago, I haven't lost count, I think 18 or 19, I'm not sure, but 18 years ago, what interested me was the process. I saw a friend of mine and he had taken a photo of me and some other girl, and he cut out the photo and he put us in the background. And I'm like, man, so I can cut somebody out and put them in the background that didn't really exist. That means I can cut myself right now and put myself in front of the Eiffel Tower. I can cut myself now and put myself in front of the Statue of Liberty. I can go anywhere on the computer. And that process just intrigued me, that I could create my own world. For me, that was incredibly interesting. That excited me, that I can create anything. That means that even if I'm in Nigeria right now, on my computer, I could be anywhere. I could be in space. I could change the color of my clothes. I could change the color of a car. I could put a car that I could just play God on a computer. That process interested me. And that was what triggered my passion for design. So I was excited about the process. And a lot of you here, you are doing what you are doing because you're excited about the process. Some of you, photography, just the process excites you. You understand the fact that you can just go there and freeze time and freeze a moment. That thing excites you. So you got into photography because of the exciting process. Some people, they got into photography, the old school people got into photography because of that dark room experience. We don't have dark rooms anymore. But before, when photographs were not digital, they were like films. You had to buy a film, load it in the camera, then take your photos and hope they are good. Then you go into a dark room and develop it. Some people, is that developing in dark room that they like. That you go into the dark and you begin to develop and see what you've taken. They love the process, so they went into photography. Another thing that could excite you if you're not excited about the process, you can be excited about the problem. And you say, being excited about the problem, that sounds very counter. It sounds like two things countering each other. How can you be excited about the problem? But being excited about the problem is, I'll give an example. Like, I was excited about the process. Someone else could have gotten into graphic design because everywhere they went, they didn't see good graphic design. Like, how come I never see good graphic design? Every billboard, the design is bad. But what I watch on TV, the design is good. Why don't they do good design in Nigeria? So you're excited about the process. So you see, excitement is not joy. It is interest. Remember I said in the beginning, it's a feeling of interest. That thing is nagging on your mind. It cannot leave your mind. That's excitement. So you see, some people are excited about problems. They're like, why? Why? Why isn't there good design in Nigeria? I'm going to go there and create good design. Some people get into fashion design because all tailors were sewing terrible clothes and they were not delivering on time. Not that they particularly like the process of making clothes, but they hated the problem. They're like, this problem is terrible, so I'm going to do it and prove everybody wrong. That's another way you could be excited that could lead into creativity, put you on the path of creativity. The third type of excitement you could have is excitement about the people. So the first thing, process. Second thing, problem. Now you can excite about the people. I have people that just think, these people deserve better. These people deserve what other people have too. You understand? So some people are very people-minded. So like, I can't just get this group of people off my mind. So they think about children and they're like, children deserve to play. They deserve to play. So they're thinking about how can we get children in a place, an environment where they begin to play. So they set up parks and recreational centers, not because they like the process or because they find the problem is nagging, but the thing is that the people, they're so empathetic about the group of people. So excitement can be towards the process, can be towards the problem, or can be towards the people. But that's always the first step to going the path of creativity, excitement or interest. The second step of in the journey of creativity is education. Now, this is very critical because a lot of people stop at this excitement. If you stop at excitement, there's no way you can be creative because you've just done the first step. Education is incredibly important. Once you find that area that you are excited about, you must seek some form of education. It might be formal education, it might be informal education, it might be mentoring, it might be apprenticeship. One of those things, you must go and learn. You must go and learn about those places that you are interested in. You must go and learn. You must. Because you know what? For you to be creative, because creativity is disruptive. That's the truth, because you are creating something. The essence of creativity is to create something in a way that has never been done. So it might be slightly different from the way it has been done, but just a little bit different. That's creative. Or it might be a total shift in the paradigm and just say, you change everything, you turn the whole table upside down. That's creative. But you know what? Before you can get to that place where you're slightly creative or totally revolutionarily creative, you must understand the fundamentals. And you can only understand the fundamentals by having an education. That's why it's so important, an education. The second step after the stage of excitement is to be educated. You must be educated. It's so important to be educated because you learn the fundamentals. So once you find your place of interest, your place of excitement, the next thing you need to find are your teachers. You need to find teachers to teach you. You must take time to find teachers. So some people they find their area of interest and before you know it, they started up their company. They started a company. They started a YouTube channel. They started a podcast talking about the subject matter. So those things won't last because there's no foundation of fundamentals. You must know the fundamentals. So when I talk to designers, especially in my academy, or I talk to people in my mentoring club, I'm always talking about the fundamentals. You must know the fundamentals, very important. You must know those fundamentals. So before you start thinking you want to do logos or websites that people have never seen before, in people have never seen before, my biggest question, do you know about balance? Do you know about color? Do you know about hierarchy? Do you know about use of typography? Do you know about alignment? Before you start disrupting anything, you must know those things. I had someone that once told me that, but if you look at Picasso's work, that was a long time ago. Someone told me Picasso, his work is rubbish now, but he was selling a lot of, he sold a lot of his painting. He was doing something called cubism. That was his style towards the end of his life. He came up with a style called cubism. So when you look at it, he does a person, but the head is boxy, the body is boxy. It doesn't look like a person. But people would say that Picasso drew, he was not the best artist, but he sold his work for millions of whatever they had then in Italy. But the truth of the matter is that Picasso did not start out with cubism. If you look at Picasso's earlier work, he was an incredible artist. Incredible. His work was good. He didn't blow up with cubism. He blew up before cubism. He was a respected artist before then. He didn't create his own style right from the gate. He learned the fundamentals of art. He knew shade, he knew light, he knew perspective, he knew depth of field. He knew all those things. Do you understand? He understood all those things. So sometimes you take some things out of context. But you can't take things out of context. You must learn the fundamentals. And that's why an education is very important. You must have an education. That's the second step of creativity. The third step in your path towards creativity is exposure. Now, this is a step that a lot of people miss out on. And I would say it's probably the most important of all. All the ones I would say, exposure is number one. It's the third step, but it's the most important. But a lot of people do not even know that there's such a thing as exposure. So people think education is exposure, but education is exposure. Education is education. It's not exposure. Education doesn't expose you. I learned that firsthand when I went to school to study architecture. I went to Obafemi Awolowo University. I studied architecture for 4 years as an undergraduate. And I came back and I still didn't know. The first project I had to design a house was carpenters and bricklayers that were telling me what to do. Why? Why was it that I had a certificate in architecture from a good university in Nigeria, and my first project that I had to do, I was guided by carpenters that didn't go to school? Why? Because they had more exposure than I did. Because my 4 years in university, we never left the university to go and learn about architecture. So we always learned it in the classroom, on the board, on paper. But life is not on the board. Life is not on paper. Life is reality, is out there. And that's what the carpenters knew. So sometimes, as architects, you draw something. The carpenters say, no. That means you can't walk. They tell you can't walk. If you do this thing this way, this wall will collapse. But because you are not exposed, you can't defend your work. Because you yourself, you know that you never built anything in reality. All your buildings are beautiful on paper. They're on paper. All my 4 years in Ife never went out. Everything was on paper. That's not architecture. That's an education in architecture. But there was little or no exposure. No exposure whatsoever. And when you're not exposed, you cannot be respected. It's exposed people that are respected. Exposure is important. Exposure is application of the education that you've learned. So you must be exposed. I see a lot of people, designers, they've done one course. They've even done my own course. They've done my ProUp Masterclass academic course. They've done my course. But their work is still bad. At first, I used to feel guilty. That how come this guy went through my training and his work is still bad? I taught them well. I gave them good materials. Why is their work bad? In fact, I used to have a conversation with my wife. Why? It used to concern me. This guy is a graduate of my academy. Why is the work still bad? This guy is a graduate. Why is the work still bad? Then we realized it's not about the time spent in the academy. That was education. After that, they needed to come to a place of constant exposure to good work. Because I used to tell my wife, I went to Canada, I went to school, I studied. And this interesting thing here, I'll tell you. When I went to Canada, we were about how many in the class for my postgraduate in design? We were about 30 or so in the class. Some people, I still see their work, some of my classmates, their work is terrible. Why? In the same Canadian classroom, what happened? Because after leaving the class, some of them went back to their countryside, the farm they were living in and stuff like that, and they were not exposed to good work. Some of them went back, they were not watching TV, looking at stuff, they were not being exposed. You see, when I finished school in Canada, I stayed back in Canada for 1 more year. And the reason for staying back 1 more year was because I wanted to be exposed. So I stayed back and I went out nearly every day, went out looking at stuff, billboards, advertising, print, going and just taking in good design. There was a mall very close to my house, a shopping mall. I used to go there. Even in winter, I would walk there and I'll just walk around the mall, walk around. I won't buy anything, just walk around. Just be looking at the designers, looking at the products, the commodities. I used to spend hours at the mall, won't buy jack. But my mind was feeding and getting exposed to good design. So when it was time to work, all I just went to was that cashier of good design in my mind and applied. Some of the designs I'm doing now were things I saw in 2007. They're just stored somewhere in your mind, but you apply it later on. You create another what you must realize, we don't create what we are educated for. We create what we are exposed to. You don't create what you're educated for, you create what you're exposed to in the long run. So you might have a stellar education, where exposure is bad, you will be bad. I remember I met someone who went to an Ivy League university before, and you're like, what does he know? The person will talk and still talk like a non-entity. It's because he went to an Ivy League university, was educated, but he wasn't exposed. So when I was looking at people in my academy, I was like, whoa, these guys, once they graduate, we need to put them in an environment where they are constantly exposed to good logos. And that's why, for people that know, I started this thing called Light by TA. For those that follow me, they know I started it. But if you don't follow me, I'll put a link up. It just launched today. If you're interested in joining, you can join. It's a subscription-based thing. But if you are a logo designer, if you're not a logo designer, don't bother. But if you're a logo designer, you're just starting out, you want to you improve your ideation, your level of ideation exposure, I would advise you to join. I've been saying to my Telegram group, people join. People don't understand why they should join. And that's why we sometimes be designers. We have a very frugal mind. You understand? This thing is subscription based, 3 months, 3K. That's 1K a month. 1K a month. Because for whatever I do, I try to subsidize 1K a month to give some designers exposure. But some people still don't want it because they don't get it. They say, what do I need exposure for? If I need exposure, I'll just go on a blog and go and get it. But they've forgotten that blogs only recycle what other blogs have given. So when you go to a blog to learn about logo design, they will tell you about the usual suspects: Nike, FedEx, IBM, Apple. Are those not the things you see on blogs? Go to another blog, that will tell you Nike, FedEx, IBM, Mercedes-Benz, like those are the only logos in the world. So designers get inspiration just from about 20 companies in the world when there are billions of good branding out there that designers will get inspiration from. But they don't get it. And that's why I decided to create this thing called Light. It's a subscription-based stuff where people can join Telegram group. And what I just want to do is bombard people with good logos, so that when they go and do their personal work, that cachet of good logos that they had in their mind, like that 1 year I took in Canada to just observe, will begin to play out in their mind. And that's what exposure is. Exposure is putting yourself in the right association. It is the most important step in creativity. The most important. I can guarantee you the most important. So you need it. If you are a writer, you must expose yourself to good writers. You can go to a school and they will teach you about writing. Good. But until you now expose yourself to good writers, whereby you form a writers club where everybody is bringing in, oh man, I just read this book by this author, this one by this author. Look at his style of writing. Let's try to read it. You not expose yourself to incredible writers, not rubbish writers that people are writing in Nigeria here. You global writers. Let them be the ones. Let them be the ones to now you expose yourself. You take in their work. Before you know it, when you start writing with their spirit. That's how important exposure is. Exposure is incredibly important. I met one guy the other day at a filling station, and I am very interactive with people. When I go to him, I talk to anybody. So I was talking to him, he was selling fuel to me. I was talking to him about his job and everything. And he said, to be honest, he's just doing this field attendant job, or that's not really what he wants to do. And I asked, what does he do? He said he draws, he's an artist. I said, okay, does he have any job he has done? And he showed me his job on his phone. I had to park after I had bought fuel. And he came to meet me, showed me his job. The jobs were incredible. Incredible. With biro, with pens, ink on paper. And I said, you do this? He said, yes. And showed me more. I'm like, wow. I'm like, where did you learn to draw this? Did you go to school to learn? He said, no, he didn't go to school. I said, how did you learn? He said his uncle was an artist and he used to draw every day. But because when he used to draw, he had to buy some things. So whenever I wanted to buy paper or buy ink or buy a pen, he would send this guy, who was a very small boy then, to go and buy it because he didn't want to stand up to be going every time. So he told the boy, sit down beside me. So if I need anything, if I need water, you get water for me. If I need it, you go and get it for me. So he always sat down beside him. And he said his uncle did not say a word to him. He did not tell him, this is how you do it. All he did was just sit down beside the uncle, watching him do it. He exposed himself to his uncle every single day. And by just exposing himself to his uncle, he became a good artist. Just by sitting there. He told me, my uncle didn't have time to talk to me. He never said anything. I was just learned by looking at him. That's how strong exposure is. You must expose yourself to the right work. I tell people, somebody that practices a particular art, let me use logo design because that's my thing. Someone that practices logo design every single day, you get up, you open Photoshop, you practice. You do work from your head, you practice. And someone that doesn't have a laptop or a system, but every day opens a design magazine looking at good logos. For 7 years, that person that practices for 7 years, you give him a project, in the 7th year, you give him a project to do. And that person that doesn't have a laptop, in the 7th year, buy him a laptop and give him a project to do. That person that didn't have a laptop for 7 years and had a laptop for the first time that 7th year will do something better than someone that's had a laptop over 7 years practicing. Because that other person exposed himself. By the time that 7th year comes, you see how the ideas just start rushing to his mind. But that other person will continue to squeeze his mind for ideas. That's why I'm spending so much time on this exposure part. Exposure is so important. So expose yourself where you're in a place where you're consistently seeing good design. And that's what I tell people. When I went to Canada, they didn't tell me much in the classroom that I didn't know in Nigeria already. I was already using CorelDRAW, Adobe Photoshop in Nigeria. I tell people this. When I traveled, what I got the most was exposure. Because every time I went out, I saw a design that blew my mind. Blew my mind every single time. That was the biggest thing I learned from Canada. I cannot lie to you. That's the truth. And that's what a lot of designers don't have today, because they go out every day and they see bad design. But even when they don't want to do bad design, they end up doing it. So you need to be in a place where you consistently see good design. So I'll move on from exposure. Expression is the next step, is the 4th step. Expression. When you are exposed, then you now go to a place where you begin to express. And expression is about practice. It's about practice. It's about copying. It's about imitating. So I tell people, practice and imitation, very important. Some people practice the wrong way. That's why they practice, and their work doesn't get better. I see it all too often. It frustrates me. I'm telling you. It frustrates me a lot. Because I have such a passion for design. And not just for design, but for design industry. Because I realize it's such a powerful industry that people can make so much money from. But work is bad. I'm telling you, the average work in Nigeria from designers is bad. The average work is bad. I can't lie to myself anymore. It's bad. If you take 10 designers, 10, maybe 2 or 1 is doing excellent work. The others are terribly mediocre. Terribly mediocre. Terribly. The work is bad. So when people complain and come up and say, man, designers are not respected, designers are not they're not paid highly enough. I think to myself, is your work good enough? Is your work good enough? And there's so much potential. So much potential to earn from design. Do you know how much work is being outsourced into Nigeria or Africa? So many people abroad want to work with designers here because our work is cheaper. And cheaper in the sense that when they convert it, it makes a lot of sense to us here. But the problem is that the work is not good. The iterations are too many. I had a designer that was telling me he's working on Fiverr and stuff like that, but people are always returning the work back to him. It takes too long. I'm like, because your work is not good enough. And because our mode of practice is faulty, the way we practice is wrong. And I'll tell you how you should practice. Whether you're a designer, you're a cake maker, you're a fashion designer, you're a singer, let me tell you how to practice. And I'll use singing as an example. People that are good singers, how do you think they practice singing? They don't practice by writing their own songs. They practice by singing other people's songs. So you see someone that is a good singer, tell them to go and bring out their tapes or their video tapes of songs they practiced with. They'll tell you, I practiced with R. Kelly. I practiced with Whitney Houston. I practiced with Mariah Carey. I practiced with Boys to Men. All those old guys, they practice by singing existing songs. Because I practiced with Rihanna. That's how they started, with other people's songs. They didn't start by writing their own songs. They sang other people's songs. People that are good at rapping, they started by rapping, they were miming other people's songs. That's what they called miming. They used to mime, miming means imitate and copy. That's how they became better, because by doing it, they realized, how Mariah Carey sings. She goes higher here. So I need to go higher like themselves. If they were to write their own song, they won't write a key that is too high for them. But when Mariah Carey writes her song, she doesn't know them. So she will write it and write a key that is high. So when you sing it, you have to force yourself to go high. But if you're writing your own song, you will protect yourself. So you won't write something that is too high for you. And that's why you won't get better. The same thing with design. If you're practicing with design and you're using your own brain to practice your own project, so you're coming up with your own ideas, you will do things that you can do. And you will never do things that you can't do, that has to force you to learn to do. That's the problem when you don't copy. And I tell them in my design academy, I say it a lot, copy. In my academy, you're not doing any work from your head. And because I realize it's a mistake when you teach designers and you tell them to go and work from their head. No, you tell them to go and work from existing work. Then they meet challenges. Then they ask questions. Then they get answers. Then they apply those answers. Then they've learned. But when they work from their head, they will do things that are easy for them and submit it to you. Then you think they are good. Then the client will come with a project that meets a challenge. Then you realize that this guy that was good in class is not good in reality. You always protect yourself when you come up with your own briefs. But what you must do is copy other people. Where that's where expression comes in. You must copy other people's work. Not to sell, but in your personal practice. That's how you get better. Copy. I tell people when I was doing motion, when I started out, there was a company called Too Advanced. They were my mentors. They were somewhere in the US. I used to copy their work. They used to do Flash then. Flash was the software. Some of you might not know Flash, but it was very popular in my day. They used to do Flash animation. So because of them, I went to go and install Flash. And I was trying to copy their work to the core. I failed a lot of times at getting it exactly. But remember, when you aim for the stars, you end up with the moon. Even though I was failing, I was learning Flash. So even when the client came, because I was aiming for something so high, when the normal client came, whatever I did was incredible to them. So, because the expression standard was so high for me, some of your expression standard is too low because you're practicing on your own. You're not copying other people's work that is challenging you. And that way for you to be creative, you must copy a creative. Copy somebody whose work is out of your grasp. Copy them. When you copy them, you become good ordinarily after a while. So expression is what comes after exposure. The last thing after expression is engagement. Now, this is the step where you've been excited, you've gotten education, you've gotten exposure, you've expressed in private, then you now take what you've expressed and put it out there. And then someone says, oh, I like the way you've done this thing. Even though it's an imitation, I like what you've done. Do you think you can do something like this for my company? Then they engage you in work. Now, engagement, they can pay you, they might not pay you, but then now you're working with actual people. Then you do the work for the person. And the person says, this is really creative work. And that is when you arrived at being a creative. When your engagement leads your audience to label you as creative. That's how you become creative. That's how you become creative. That's the creative journey at the end of the day. It's after you've copied, you've been exposed, you've gotten an education, you're excited about what you're doing, then you start, put all these things together, present it to a client. Then they are blown away by your work. They are blown away by your expression. And that's when they call you creative. You don't call yourself creative. Yesterday I was talking about Quentin Tarantino. I said, the people that watch his films, he's a very creative director. He's in film, they're very creative. But I can tell you, he started out with an interest in film. From there, he got an education about film. From there, he got exposed. He hangs around other directors. That's why you see they know each other. Quentin Tarantino is very good friends with Robert Rodriguez. They're friends. They're other people in their field. They're friends. That's their association. They expose themselves to good films. They to talk about films. That was their exposure. They had a tightly knit community. They know each other. You understand? That good people always know each other. They're always hanging around. And from doing that, he would have made some test films, some small films that never released by expressing himself, just trying to copy someone's style. There was a guy, he's also the director, M. Night Shyamalan. That's his name. He does a lot of films, some good films, some were not so good, but a lot of good films. And he was talking about his career. And he says, do you know how many films he has done that were never released? When he was expressing himself. He was just doing films till he was able to write a very good script and take it to a studio. And they looked at it like, man, this took nice. This is really creative work. But it started from somewhere. You just don't jump from excitement to create. And that's why I see a lot of designers, they try to jump from excitement straight into creative. No. So you just learned about logo design. You like it, but now you want to do a groundbreaking logo. No. You will do a boring logo first that has all the rules applied. Alignment, color, contrast, balance, those kind of things. It's boring, yes. Don't worry. You do enough boring ones to show that you know the foundation of design. And then you start looking at people that are creative and start copying their work. Then copying their work, you now learn creativity. So that when you now do your own work, you apply what you know. And by applying what you know, you realize that the world will begin to call you creative. So that's the creative journey. I feel, okay, it's like 12:50 right now. So I should probably stop right now and just give people an opportunity to ask one or two questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for the time. I'll first ask my question. Mental privileges. I didn't get the final point because you mentioned that there are 5 phases of creativity: excitement, education, exposure, expression, engagement. I don't know how the 4th and the 5th connect. I'm not sure. I think I missed out on that, sir.
Okay, when I talk about engagement is now after you have practiced. You now take what you have practiced and present it to people. That's when it's that engagement period that you can say, I want to set up a design company. You see, a lot of people, straight from excitement, they get some education. They go to a design school, design academy, design training, 2 weeks design training. Immediately after that one, they've registered business. Ola Designs. Ola Designs. And then they start putting out stuff on Instagram that they are taking projects on people. You see, they've jumped exposure, they've jumped expression. They've gone straight to engaging with real life people. It is a big problem. And that's when people begin to batter the image of their brand from the beginning, because they get in trouble with clients. They get to this place whereby they're taking money from clients they can't deliver. You understand? That's what happens, because they don't spend time exposing themselves and expressing what they've done in private. Then once you express what you've done in private, you can now set up. And that's why I tell people, when I started designing logos, I say it every time. Before I started designing logos for clients, I'd done over 200 designs on my own for fictitious clients. A lot of them were copying, a lot of them were just me coming up with ideas. But you see, over 200. I have them on my laptop. I have almost 2,000 logos. But in reality, I've not done up to 2,000 logos for 2,000 clients. So where did 2,000 come from? It came from personal work that I did those first few years of expressing in private. You understand? So you must express yourself in private. That expression straight in private, when you can do anything. You can play as you want. You understand? You can copy as you want. You understand? Nobody's going to sue you for playing around with their work as long as you're not selling it. And that's what I was doing. I look at the logo and say, what font did this person use? I will go and try and look for that font. If I can't find that font, I look at what font I have and I try to create that font. So I learned how to create fonts from expression. I didn't use a real client's work to learn how to create fonts. That just puts me in trouble. Then the person will say, what kind of font is this? Do I just want looking this way? No. Before I started taking work from clients that put me in the position to make fonts, I had practiced making fonts my own self. So the client always got the finished work, not the experimental work. You understand? So that's what I mean by engagement. Engagement is the last phase where you bring everything from your interest to your education, to your exposure, to your experimentation and expression to the client, and now give the client a product. And now when the client now looks at your work and now says, this guy or this lady is super creative. But they don't understand that it took years and it took 4 steps ahead to get to that place where you're now creating incredible stuff. It wasn't overnight.
Thank you very much, sir. I picked up loads of value. So guys, I need to have been in church, and I said I believe you are blessed. But this is not a church. Okay, so if you have questions, please raise your hands. I will just call your name and you only can ask your questions. So from my list, I have Samuel Peter. Hi, Samuel. Good afternoon. Please make sure you are straight, you are direct to your questions so that Safola can give answers, right? Samuel, hi. Do you want to? You can ask your question. Okay. Jephthah, hi. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Jeremiah. Good afternoon, Mr. Tola. Good, amazing conversation so far. So I'll just jump right into my question. I phrased it this way: exposure and expression, copying and originality. Where and when does the designer begin to channel their inner energy? That is their own uniqueness, their own, like Mr. Tola, when and where did you begin to channel your own unique ability as a designer, as a creative, having looked at all these people for many years? When did you find yourself, so to speak, if I may use that term? When and where do you channel their inner energy, seeing that everyone is unique? Because, like you used the example of Picasso, I'm sure in the day of Picasso, there were many different artists who learned under the same teacher. But then Picasso went on to become one of the most astounding artists the world has ever seen, because at the end of the day, he was able to find himself in what he did or through his art. So where do we come? When do we find this? What level do we come into art in this on this journey that we begin to find this expression? I don't know if that makes any sense. Sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's a good question. Now, when do you begin to find yourself? When do you begin to infuse your own style into your work? And I personally believe your own style comes in during your time of engagement, not before. During your time of engagement, that is when you begin to find your style. It takes a while for you to find what is unique, where people can look at it and say, this is Tola's work. This is Ola's work. This is John's work. You understand? It takes some time. It takes some time. But it's in that period of engagement. Remember, you're always expressing, because expressing is doing that thing. But now you're expressing with real life clients, you're expressing real people. A lot of times you find yourself when through challenges, a lot of times, whereby you get stuck with a client's job. A client gets stuck, or a client's job doesn't go too well, and you're like, why didn't it go too well? What happened? What can I do better? It's most times a challenge that morphs us, that brings out that best in us, whereby we're now bringing in our own essence into the work. It's most times a client's job. It's most times a challenge that comes in. So there's a lot of times in your engagement period that your creativity will totally bloom. That's when it happens, when you begin to engage with people. You begin to engage with clients. Sometimes, because you are able to do work for a client, they're able to build some level of trust in you. And because they're able to build some level of trust in you, what they bring to you sometimes will be higher. So every time I have evolved, it was because somebody somewhere thought I could do more. You understand? And I had never given attention to that doing more. So like, we want to do this thing. Can you do this for us? I'm like, I mean, I don't do that. I do this. So, but then in the end, they're pushing you just one step further to apply what it is you know how to do in a way that you've never done it before. And that's where you realize that your voice now begins to come out in it. It now becomes more personal, whereby you've never seen it done like this before, but then you're willing to do it to solve this problem. And sometimes it's a small infusion. You see, this personal element that seeps into our work, that helps people to know this is us. It's normally something small, it's not something grand. Just something small, just tilt that thing in your direction that just makes you're able to own it. Just that small thing. It doesn't have to be something grand. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It just that small thing you add to the wheel. Sometimes they might come out as mistakes while you are working with a client. Just mistakes. I can't tell you how many things I've done that I don't like, oh, that's cool. How did I do that again? I don't know how I did that too. Let me trace my step back. You understand? It wasn't education, it was just a mistake that happened. You understand? It was just a mistake within the work. It was something that happened because you had limited time. You understand? And just like, okay, let me try this thing so that I can get this work across to a client on time. And you try it and you're like, whoa, that was cool. Never knew we could try that. And that becomes a thing. And that's how it works. That's how it works. When you're working with a client, that's how it works. I remember there was a job I was doing for a client once. And the person said they wanted to put tattoo on someone's hand. Tattoo on the hand. I thought of, how can I put tattoo on this lady? It was a very long time ago, and I tried putting tattoos, and it was good. The person liked it, person's hand. But in learning that, I looked at it. It made me go to Photoshop and look at all the overlay, color dodge, what they call, I've forgot what those things are called, blend options. You understand? I said color dodge, overlay. And in just trying out those, I was like, wow, this is cool. I could do a lot of things with this thing. And that just helped me to be able to do a lot of things with font. So if I look at my early work, I did a lot of typography work. But my typography work came from mistakes, from pressure, from clients. So it's your engagement that you begin to find out your style. It's your engagement. When you get that engagement stage, that you begin to find out what you can do, what you are not able to do. You understand? That's when it comes in, but usually not before. Usually not before. Usually not before. It takes a while. It takes a while for you to find your style. It's from engaging. You see, I use these people as an example. If you look at the music industry in Nigeria, so there are a lot of people that started out, and you look at they copied their way to their style. So if you look at someone, a group like P Square now, I remember when P Square first came out, they were dancing like Usher, singing like Usher, looking like Usher. You understand? They were Usher, just Usher divided into two. So they were Usher. And they got a lot of terrible feedback that you guys are just trying to be like Usher. So they got a lot of people mock them. But if you look at P Square now, or whenever it is before they broke up, I don't know where they are now, but before, if you talk about them now, nobody looks at them and calls them Usher. Nobody. They developed their own identity along the way. They developed their own style of writing music. They developed their own style of dancing. They didn't sound like Usher anymore. They sounded like P Square. There was another guy, Vector. Vector the Viper used to sound like Jay-Z when he started. He sounded like Jay-Z. He was exactly like Jay-Z. Sounded like Jay-Z. But I can't listen to Vector right now. I think it's not possible because with his interaction with the industry, he had to change. He evolved. Now he has his own style. He has his own sound. You understand? You cannot mix both of them up together again. You understand? But those are early days for him where he had to copy who he thought was the best, who was Jay-Z. That became his expression. Then he began to engage and engage and engage. And then must have gotten some say, okay, do a song in Yoruba. And I said, okay, how do I do a song in Yoruba and sound like Jay-Z? That's a problem. Because Jay-Z doesn't do Yoruba. So he now had to bring some of himself as Larry into it. And now it now became a voice. Do you understand? And that's when his essence now came into it. It was by engaging. Someone told him, engage, you need to speak pidgin English. I'm like, okay, Jay-Z don't speak pidgin English. So there's no templates for that. He now had to do that. And by doing that, he began to create a unique template for himself. So it's an engagement that you now begin to have a template for yourself.
Wow, thank you, sir. Thank you. Amazing. Thank you.
How many questions?
All right, any other question? I think I'll take one more question.
From here. So
Good afternoon. Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, so some of these hold on.
Good afternoon, Jeremiah. Good afternoon, Sir Tope. Sir Alabi. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, sir. So I would like to know if there's a difference between logo design, product design, and web design. Thank you, sir.
There's a difference between logo design, product design, and web design. Now, there is a difference. Although there's one of them which I'll talk about last. But logo design, web design, totally two different things. Your logo is your identity. The identity of an entity. An entity might be a person, might be a place, might be a company, might be a product. You understand? But they need something to be able to identify it from other entities in that category. So if you have a pen now, so you have a pen that might be big, or might be Eleganza, or might be Naturaj, you understand? They all have pens. But how do you know the difference? And sometimes it's by the logo, you understand? They all look the same plastic with ink inside. That's what it is. But that's logo design. Logo design focuses on that identifier for an entity. With web design, we all know what that is. That's the engagement that you have online, whereby it's like an online representation of your company. And when I say online, it might be online right now because online has really, really moved on from personal website right now to other things like social media and stuff. But this one is like your own domain. You have a domain, your own personal address for your company, and that's what you help a company to design. That their own personal house, their domain space. That's what web design is. There is a big difference. On your web, you have your logo. your website, you have your logo. You understand? So the web accommodates your logo and other information. Your logo basically just accommodates what your values and your identifier is. That's just basically what it is. When we talk about product, now, this thing to say about product, you see, if you look at it, now people have a category that they would want to call product design, but product design is very, very vast. So when you say someone is, and this is what we kind of look at when I understood product design coming up, was what I saw a lot of industrial design as when you create something. So a logo can be a product, a website can be a product, an app can be a product, a tangible, something more tangible, a water bottle can be a product, a spoon can be a product, a car can be a product. So you see, we all engage in some level of product design. You understand? A product is a deliverable that you give to a client to use. So it can be tangible, it can be intangible. So we are all product designers in the long run. The fashion designer is a product designer, the cake maker is a product designer. You know, we all deal with different products. Although people kind of restrict it right now to, you know, web-based product, app-based products, you know, that kind of thing. But that's one extension of product. Product design is what we all do, in my own understanding. So when people tell me they are product designers, I always ask them to clarify what they mean, because that can be very ambiguous. And a lot of times it's designer lingo that confuses clients. And we get involved in that designer lingo a lot, where we say things that designers understand. A lot of designers lose jobs because of this kind of abstract designer lingo. So they are talking about, oh, I'm a product designer. The client doesn't understand what you mean. You understand? Like, can you design my app? You understand? Okay. So when they say, I do a product design, like, you don't want product design. You want someone that can design app. So you must talk in normal, everyday terms. And I was saying this, my wife is a medical doctor. And when we first got married, she used to talk in medical jargons to me. So I'll go out and she'll just say, can you buy me albendazole? I'll be like, what's albendazole? I said, just go to the pharmacy, ask them for albendazole. I don't know. If I get that, I'll forget this name, albendazole. What does that mean? And then I go to pharmacy and they say albendazole. I say, okay, what you need is like combantrin. I'm like, why didn't you tell me combantrin? I don't know what albendazole is. She tell me say one is chlorpheniramine. I say, I don't know what chlorpheniramine is. I don't know what that's so abstract to me. They say, okay, Piriton. I say, why did you tell me Piriton? I will remember that now. So you see, she was talking to me like a medical doctor, but then it was easy for me to dismiss it because I didn't understand what she was saying. So we designers kind of say all this. I'm glad you're asking this question about sometimes you can tell a client I'm an identity designer. They don't understand. So you better tell them you're a logo designer. You understand? They understand you saying you're a web designer. I remember a designer that told me he was a full stack designer and told me that I didn't hire him because he was full stack. I'm like, okay, full stack. Client doesn't understand what full stack is. Because they say, you say I'm a full stack designer. We don't need a full stack designer. We need a Corel Draw person. We don't need someone that knows how to use full stack. They don't know what full stack is. They don't know what that means. You understand? So that's also just impresses us, but the client themselves they're not impressed by it. So normal lingo. So if product design can be a lot of things, but you need to clarify what it is for you. But web, logo, those are very clear things to know what it is. So I hope
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject. So you mean so you mean that one could be all of this together, right? Is it possible? Is it possible you be a logo designer and still be a product designer, right?
Yes, it is. It is. Now, from what I even said earlier, a logo designer is a product designer because you are designing a product. And your product is called a logo. However, what you're trying to say is, can a logo designer also be like a UI, UX person?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it can be. You understand? You can have different specialties. You can have an experience in UI, have experience with motion, have experience with animation, have experience with illustration. But you must know one thing, that the more of these things you put into your shopping cart, the less attention you are giving to each one. So you must be careful how many things. So you can be all these things, but in the end, the client doesn't want someone that can be these things. The client wants someone that can be good at these things. So the question is, can you be good at logo design and be good at web and be good at animation and be good at... The more things you pack on, that number is inversely proportional to your expertise. So the more you have that, the less your expertise. The more you have, so you must choose. And the truth is, you must always choose expertise over volume, because clients don't care about volume. They would line. I tell people, clients. I had a friend that showed me a website, and I will ask him to send me that website again. Maybe if anybody that follows me on WhatsApp or stuff like that, I will share the guy's website. There's a web designer. When he showed me that guy's website, the guy, if you want to work with him now, you have to book for next year. Because when he even showed me, it was around this period, early in the year, he showed me, check out this guy's website. And I looked at his website. It was all he does is web design. But in his website, he had put it there that we are booked till next year. So if you want us to work with you, you must book. That's web design. He doesn't do jack but web design. But because he's such an expert with web design, he's booked for a year from the beginning of the year. You understand? So expertise is what clients want. Expertise is what your employers too want, but not as much as clients. You understand? If you're going to be an employee, the employer wants you to have a knowledge of a lot of things. So if you know that starting a business is not for you, what I just say is have an idea of graphic design, an idea of illustration, an idea of web, an idea of this, an idea. Employers are attracted to an idea of many things. Clients are attracted to a focus on one thing. You understand? And that's what you must consider.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
All right. So someone else is trying to ask a question.
Yeah, all right. There is that, but let me hear from Abiodun. Someone, you were not here about this.
Okay, yeah, I'm back now. Can you hear me? So, you talk about education. That is number 3 point. So I want to ask right now, for instance, signing for a class, the cost of signing for a class sometimes is very much. So can we leverage on internet tools like YouTube, Google, and other things to learn for education purpose actually? And the second question, have we answered this one?
What's the second question?
Okay, second question is what like internet platform where you can be exposed to get inspirations. What internet platform can we be exposed to? So that's the second question.
All right. Okay. So your first question is about education, and sometimes it's expensive. Yes, so can you leverage on the free stuff on the internet? Yes. And I the best advice I give to people is when you're starting out, eat up all the free stuff first. You understand? Eat all the free stuff first. Eat the stuff that is on the ground before you start trying to climb the stuff on the tree. You understand? So if you look at a cow now, younger cows, they focus on smaller shrubs on the floor. Then when they eat a lot of that, they can now grow to a point where they can start stretching for higher things. But take up all the free stuff as much as possible. Free stuff is good. It has its place. It's absolutely good. It has its place. However, the reality of the matter is you can never be the best on free stuff. That's just the reality. I've come to realize that, at first I used to think, if your heart is into it, you can be. But it's not. It's not. I've trained too many people, interacted with too many designers. The difference between the ones that end up shining and the ones that end up being average or mediocre is their willingness to spend money on their interest. It's always the dividing factor. Always. It's one of the most unfair things about life. And it might be unfair because it just means that the person that doesn't have money cannot go far. That's the reality. I'm sorry to say, it's just the reality. It's what I've realized is how life is on every level. If you watch football, and they're playing. I don't know how many of you are watching the Premier League. The Premier League right now, Arsenal is topping the group. If they are still topping, I think they are. But they are being very closely marked by this club called Manchester City. And Manchester City was a mid-table club at best many years ago. A few years ago, not many. But now they've become a problem. Manchester City is a big problem in the Premier League. I don't support them, but I can't deny the fact that they are a problem. They are a problem because they have money. I will not be shocked if all that Arsenal has done over these past few months, the good work they've done, is started by Manchester City at the end. Just some few more games left to the end of the Premier League. Manchester City will take it away from them. I will not be shocked. Because why? It wasn't by their determination to play better football. It was when the Arabs came and infused money into Manchester City, they became a problem for other people. Now you cannot sidetrack them. They win the league back to back. When Manchester, they were the second-class club. Now they totally eclipsed Manchester United. The only difference was the money. They put money into their business. That it happens everywhere. The designers are mentored, the ones that go ahead. Look, there's something I put up on the chat just now. That lights. I have some people that have subscribed. They are starting today. Now, I put it up there for those of you that are logo designers. If you're interested, you can join. You understand? For exposure. That answers your second question about exposure. But if you're interested, you can join. But one thing I realized, the people that have joined right now, they are the designers that are good already. And that thing always shocks me. I'm like, this guy is good already, but he's still subscribing to Light. Why? Because he wants to get better. Then that guy that's like, boss, please help me. Boss, I want to be great. Boss, I want to be good and do good work. I put Light out there, 1K per month. They won't join. Because he feels like, I can get it online now. This thing, why should I pay 1K? But he still complains, why is this work better than my own work? Because he has put his money in it. Money just has a spirit. I don't know. I've never understood the spirit behind it. I've never. But that's how it works. If you put your money in something, the world begins to honor the fact that you put your money in it. The spirit in the world just begins to honor. That's the truth. So don't start with free stuff, but don't stay on free stuff, please. For your own sake, not even for my own sake. For your own sake, don't stay on free stuff. It will never elevate you to never. I've never seen one person in my 42 years alive that has been elevated by free stuff before. They always make that decision to say, I will invest money in this thing, and it takes them to the next. Never one person. I've never seen. In my experience of mentoring designers, the best of the best that I always see are the ones that are willing to say, I'm willing to spend money on this thing. And you see the differences in their work night and day. So yeah, that's how it works. If you want to get exposure, you want to get this, you want to be in a creative society, then you need to intentionally check them out. You understand? I have a mentoring club. It's a creative society where people can meet and talk and stuff and share ideas and meet people. You want to put yourself inside places like that. Just choose to surround yourself with top crop things. Even if you might have to pay a membership fee, it just puts your mind in a different realm. You understand? So free doors are always very shallow. I'm telling you, free doors are always very shallow. I'll never forget there was a particular package that changed my graphic design life. It's called Photoshop's Top Secret. Photoshop Top Secret. I'll never forget it. It was a tutorial. It had like how many CDs? I think 6 CDs. 6. Now, in reality, I didn't pay for that thing. I didn't pay for Photoshop Top Secret. One of my friends was able to hack it, and he downloaded it many years ago, about 10 years ago or so, by a guy called Mark Monsiadini. When I started watching this thing, I just thought to myself, Tola, because then the world, all this being able to pay for stuff in dollars was not possible in Nigeria. So we had to hack. To be honest with you. But then I looked at it, and the guy was teaching some things. I said, Tola, there's no way you would have learned this thing if you didn't get this stuff. That means that if I didn't have money to pay for that stuff, my work will still be on one kind of level. Immediately I finished those 6 CDs, my work went from 0 to 100. As in, I will never forget the impact that thing had on my work. That Photoshop Top Secret, just go and Google it, by Mark Mossadini. Incredible stuff, but it cost a lot of money. It cost money. And I'm like, this is what people watch abroad, and they buy it and they start using it. And it takes their work to another level. So it's just the way the world is. I'm sorry. So when you start getting free stuff, use it to make money. But that money, put it back in investing in yourself, and invest in a software, invest in a computer, invest in a class, invest in mentoring, and you'll see the difference. The difference is always clear.
Final question from
All right. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Jerry, and good afternoon, Mr. Tola. And thank you so much for what has been said so far. My question will be, in designing, right? I've seen that it's almost impossible to say that this is exactly what I do. Let me put that into reference. Like, you as a logo designer, you probably will still have to understand the basics of graphics designing in order to be able to do what you do well and all of that. So my question would be, at what point does one say that this is exactly what I need, and I don't need to venture or learn these other skills, right? I just need to focus on this. And also, is it healthy? Is it advisable to even like carry on a number of skills all at the same time?
All right.
Instead of specializing on anyone, yeah.
Specializing. Like I said, and there was a young lady that asked a question. I didn't get her name, but I said, if you want to build expertise, and that's where you must be clear where you are going. If you want to work in a company, it's always good to have knowledge of a lot of things. If you want to build a business, it's always good to focus on a knowledge of one thing. That's how it works. From my experience with both working and running a business, I realized that people that run successful businesses are the people that focus on one thing. Clients want expertise. You understand? The employer wants to pay one person to be able to do 5 jobs. You understand what I'm saying? So what they want is different. So it depends on where you feel you're going. You feel like if I'm going in a direction whereby I want to build my business, then I'll just say, let there be one thing that allows your business to stand out. Where they say, if you need this thing, go and meet this person. Those are the ones that become very successful. You understand? Where you're able to do one thing and do it exceptionally well. Yes, you might have an idea of other things, but that one thing is what you put up on the front burner every time. You see, when I started my business, I kind of made that mistake for a while where I was offering everything. So I remember what my first flyer was like. I do web design, motion, animation, logo, layout design. I put everything there, but nobody was calling me for anything. Till I just said I do logo design. My clientele changed when it became clear what this guy does. At first, I was scared that if I tell people I do logo design, I'll miss out on another job. I'll miss out. But in the long run, I didn't miss out. In the end, I was even too busy doing logo design to start focusing on other things. But I realized that because I was doing logo design so well, people started calling me to do other things. So like, do you know how to do layout? Can you design our brochure? Can you do our website? Can you do our this? And then I started giving work out to other people that were doing it. You understand? But if you want to run a business, you might need to specialize. I don't advise anyone that is starting out to start out with a specialization mentality. No, start out with a broader mentality of want to learn and figure out which one I like. So you start out generalizing, but as you begin to grow in your career, you begin to narrow down and say, which one do I like? Which one am I best at? Which one do I love the most? Which one do people tell me, you are very good at this thing? Then begin to put all your energy and your resources into that. And you realize that that will begin to strengthen your personal brand. So you want them to be able to say one thing. Is it web you want them to say and think about you? Is it UI UX that you want to say and think about you? You understand? It must be one thing that people would mention and your name would come to mind. So yes, as you go along in your career, you have to come to a place where you will choose which lane and which direction, which path you want to walk eventually.
All right. Thank you, sir. So just leading to the question that you answered now, thank you so much for that. My final question would be, so now that you focused on just one thing, your area of specialty and all of that, how do you deal with with charging people for what you do? Like how do you get them, like maybe before you used to charge I don't know, 3,000 naira per designs, but now you yourself you're making that decision that this is the value I want to start placing on my skill, on what I do, on my services. So how do you deal with the financing in a way that people get to accept it? In so doing that you don't even put yourself in the negative scope. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, let's talk about this financing thing. Number one, when you are charging, one thing you shouldn't put in your mind is whether people will accept it or not. You understand? That should never be something you put at the fore. At least for me, it's never at the fore of my mind of, will people accept this my rate? No. Because when you start charging for what people will accept, then you start making that mistake of trying to please people even with your rate. And remember, people will always try to protect themselves first. So you will always find people that will say that your rate is too expensive. They will always say it's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. So it has to be something you believe in. Because when you come up with a price, for sure you have people that will say no. You always have people that will, at every level. If you charge 500 naira for a logo, you have people that will tell you no, it's 200 naira they can pay. If you charge 200 naira, you have people that say it's 100 naira they can pay. Charge 100 naira, people that tell you it's 5 naira they can pay. Charge 5 naira, people say no, that they deserve a free logo. You understand? So you cannot go based on what you feel people will accept, because you always find people that will not accept it. But I really believe that narrowing down your specialty allows you to be able to charge more. Because when you narrow down, it increases expertise. Remember what I said. If you take on more, expertise will decrease. If you take on less, expertise will increase. So since I started narrowing down on logo design, I started becoming better at logo design because it became my bread and butter. I know a lot about logo design. I can talk about it very well. I can, and because it became what I put all my attention into. And because you put all your attention into that, you become more of an expert. You become a subject matter expert. And that's what you charge for. That even when you talk to people and they say, the way the guy talks about logo, you know that it's not small money you're going to pay. But when you have so much knowledge and your knowledge is varied, then you don't have deep knowledge on stuff. Now, when you're talking about it, the client doesn't believe that you know so much about what you're talking about. Then they begin to argue with you. But if that is your bread and butter, UI, UX, you talk about it very well. You talk about what they don't even know. You understand? They begin to respect the fact that you have knowledge. And then you can charge higher. You can charge more. So for me, it wasn't hard coming up with a price once I focused on logo design at all. Because then all my books now became logo design books. So I understood more about it. There's nobody and nowhere I cannot talk about logo design in any audience. I don't feel intimidated talking about it. You understand? And because of that confidence, people feed into your confidence. Like, this guy is confident, he's knowledgeable, he deserves what he's charging. Now, whether or not they now say we can pay is a different thing. So people say, they're too expensive for us. We don't need someone as experienced as you. We just get one guy to do two. That's they have all the rights. That's their business. You understand? But the people that will say this is a serious company, we want somebody that is intelligent to work on our logo, that can tell us a story about our logo, that we can tell our clients, that we can put on our website. That's the kind of person we want. They will put value on your work and they will pay you what you want at the end of the day. So you always find your audience, but you must make sure that you are a specialist at what you are doing, because that's what makes people pay for your work.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. That answers my question perfectly.
Thank you.
All right. So
Uh,
I think that might be the last question I'll be able to take.
Yes.
However, I think I don't know how many of you are on my Telegram Q&A group, but I would share a link of my Telegram group in the chat right now if you want to join the Telegram. So if you have questions and you just feel like you didn't get to ask your question today, you can go to Q&A group and just ask that question. It's totally dedicated to Q&A. I've not had a lot of time to answer because I've been busy, but put it there. I will always come to it eventually. So I'll just put the link in the chat right now, and you can join if you're not there. And if you don't have questions, you can still join and you can listen to other people's questions and benefit from the answers I've been able to give them over time. It has been existing now for, is it up to a year? I think so. But but you get a lot of value from it.